if you take anything away today, it is that we have another shot. With AI, all the opportunities are reopening, but we need to do it now. We need to fight back now. We need to actually explore the AI opportunities today, not next year. Hey guys, great to see so many people here. Oh man, he's such a pain. Can we just all agree just to ignore him? Wherever I go, he tends to follow. But anyway, yeah, so I am asking the question today, why are you not making any money from AI? But just before that, a quick intro. As Jeff was saying, my name is Ditlev. I am the co-founder and CEO of HostedAI. And I've been in the industry for a super long time. Actually, this is me in 2015. This is like 10 years ago, guys. Standing on this very stage. My service provider CV back then is not very different. I ran a bunch of hosting companies. UK2 Group, you may have heard about. I sold that in 2010 or 11 or something like that. Started OnApp, ran that for a number of years, and now I'm running HostedAI. Yeah. So 10 years ago, I was on this very stage talking about our industry. That presentation, this is actually part of my deck from 2015. It was known for two things. There was an outrageous amount of Lego in that deck. Anyone here that was here? Raise your hands. It's like 10 of you guys that actually were here 10 years ago. That's crazy. So it was a crazy amount of Lego in the deck, but also another point, it was more than 100 slides in 20 minutes, 25 minutes or so. But I was basically talking about how this bookshop was about to eat our breakfast, lunch, and dinner. The bookshop, Amazon, obviously, was sort of symbolized by Darth Vader in my presentation. And I was talking about how we had to rethink our go-to-market strategies. And 20 minutes into the keynote, on slide 117, I concluded that we actually had a real shot at fighting back. And if we all worked together, maybe AWS would go back to running I thought it was a really good idea to bring him up here. I'm starting to regret it. Maybe you just stay there for a little while, okay? And maybe we can go back to running our business, and this bookshop can go back to doing what it did well before. The thing is, yeah, that presentation in 2015 still holds the unofficial record of 134 slides in 25 minutes. And here you're all going to witness me beating that. I'm actually going probably 150, 170 if there's battery enough on this device here. But anyway, in 2015 keynote, I was talking about how cloud was the biggest opportunity we all had. I was talking about that we had to fight for it, though, because we had Amazon coming, eating our breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And the thing, short story is that we didn't fight for it. We kind of screwed up, actually, as an industry. And today, the hyperscalers are sitting on 60% of our market. This was our market, and then this bookshop came just from the right and stole 60% of was probably the largest opportunity at the time. And we, all of you guys in this room, the thousands of people that they talked about has been here yesterday and today, are sitting on 40% on this market. Today I'm here to say, and if you take one thing with you today, is that we have another shot. We are now facing an opportunity that is even bigger, it's trillions and trillions of dollars. And so, yeah, let's get started. I'll do it in 3 steps. I'll talk about first the AI opportunity, and then I'll talk about the current players in the market that are utilizing and getting the full effect of this opportunity, because I can already say now that it's not the people, unfortunately, in this room. It's not the people on the show floor, because it's only 5% of everyone here at CloudFest that actually have AI infrastructure in their data centers. And then I'll talk about why and how we can still win this. I promise you guys, this is 150 slides. I only have 5 slides about my company. So this is not one of those bullshit presentations. This is actually, I'm trying to be real here and actually talk about stuff that matters. I'll start by outlining the AI opportunity, and the most important number in my head is that 28% of all the AI revenue, of all the hosting revenue, all the service provider revenue, all the data center revenue, 28% of our industry today comes from, 28% of the revenue in our industry today comes from AI. And as I said before, it's only 5% of service providers that are actually providing these 28%. So if you do $100 of revenue, $28 of those $100 should be coming from hosting GPUs or GPU-like infrastructure. But only 5% of service providers actually do it. That in 2030 will be 46%, so almost half, just a few years from now. And that's because it's growing 44% a year, where cloud is only growing 22%. And actually, if you exclude the hyperscalers from the 22%, it's 19.4%. So you guys, on average, those of you that are CSPs, are growing 19.4% on average, whereas the AI guys around you are growing 44% year on year. So it's a $4 trillion. I don't even want to go into these numbers because it's just silly numbers. It's trillions and trillions of dollars that we have a real shot at getting. I'll talk about why we are actually better positioned at getting that than the new clouds of today, than the hyperscalers of today. We are perfectly positioned. My conclusion today is that I don't want to stand here 10 years from now and do this presentation. And by the way, I'll be 60 years old or something like that. So I really don't want to stand here, 60-year-olds, talking about how we missed another opportunity. So if you take anything away today, it is that we have another shot, but we need to do it now. We need to fight back now. We need to actually explore the AI opportunities today, not next year. So another really interesting KPI here is looking at SaaS applications. And the reason that is interesting, because all of you guys have VPS servers, you have dedicated servers, you're hosting data centers. So you have data centers where you're hosting SaaS applications inside of those virtual machines or dedicated servers or whatever. And 77% of all SaaS applications today have an AI element to it. What does that mean? That means that they have either some embedded language models, they have some agents, they have some chatbots associated with them. And you're probably thinking that a lot of those guys will be using OpenAI and so on, but I'll get back to that in a second, because 40% of enterprise applications that I'm sure you guys are hosting a lot of as well have embedded AI. And you're probably thinking, as I was saying, it's all going to OpenAI, to the APIs. That's how these guys are doing it. And actually, not at all. I'll dive into these numbers now because, sure, some of them will use OpenAI, but tons would want to host their own models. Why? Because it's cheaper. It's like 30 cents on the dollar compared to using OpenAI. If you are a SaaS application provider, it's like 70% cheaper to host your own model than it is to call the OpenAI APIs. And we all know how the pricing of the OpenAI APIs are fluctuating, going up and down, mostly up. And I think they're moving away from these flat rate models into like consumption-based. That's going to make this even more expensive. It's certainly faster. There's no latency. The data locality, sovereignty of data is super important. Privacy is super important. All the issues that you guys have read about models learning for whatever you are telling them, obviously is a big deal here, especially if you're a developer. I want to dig into some of the scale from these SaaS applications. And I think a good way of doing that is looking at Hugging Face. You guys all know Hugging Face, right? It's the biggest repo for models out there. If you guys are hosting a model, or if you have maybe a model sitting on your own computer, you're most likely to get it from Hugging Face. This is the last 12 months of downloads from Hugging Face. You probably can't see these numbers, but the point is that's 122 million downloads. That's almost 100 million, another almost 100 million. All in all, it's like, seriously, almost 1 billion downloads in the last 12 months. And why is that interesting? Well, don't forget DeepSeek, by the way. There's another 100 million of downloads in the last 3 months of DeepSeek. It's interesting because someone is hosting all those models. All of those models, the billions of downloads, are sitting on a virtual machine somewhere. They're sitting on a dedicated server. They're sitting in a data center somewhere. And most likely, frankly, again, it's not in your data centers. It's not in your virtual machines. It's not inside your dedicated servers, because only 5% of service providers are currently offering infrastructure that these models need to run. So I'm asking, who's hosting all this stuff? It's not you guys, because, yeah. So in short, we are at the beginning now of a tectonic shift. And we've seen it all before. For example, this was 2008 with mobile. Apple assumed that they would sell 10 million mobile phones in 2008. So this was their statements in 2007 saying, 2008, we're going to sell 10 million phones. And they ended up selling double the amount, 20 million phones. In 2015, when I was standing on this stage talking about how you guys need to fight back, Amazon had a similar experience. They went from thinking they were going to lose 20% on EBIT, actually gained 70% positive margin instead. They expected to be 4 billion of run rate, ended up being 6 billion of run rate. So this was something that was a surprise to everyone, and I'm here to say that we are in the middle of another shift like this. Actually, the time is now, because if you look at the data center revenue from NVIDIA, they were sort of trolling around 3/4 of 4 billion, and suddenly, overnight, the tectonic shift happened, and they jumped to 10 billion of revenue. You can see from Q1 23 to Q2 23. I'm sure everyone inside NVIDIA was just as surprised as anyone else. So that was my first 50 slides. Are you guys still here? All right, cool. So are you feeling FOMO? By the way, yeah, that's the problem with him. His name is FOMO. Every time I say that word, Jesus. No, okay. So a lot of you are probably thinking that I'll just leave the AI stuff to all the other guys and I'll continue doing what I'm doing. I've been doing it for 10, 20 years and I've been perfectly fine. The thing is, that's not how it works. It's not a good option. I'll tell you why. This is a typical resource allocation for an AI workload. You have a bunch of H200 cards. That could be A100s, it could be L40s, T4s, whatever. But they're just a small part of the AI infrastructure. What you also have right next to the GPUs is you have a whole bunch of CPUs. Typically, a few hundred CPUs is required to run those 8 cards. And more importantly, you have the remaining part of the infrastructure running the SaaS application or the whatever AI application sitting around. That's typically around 40% of the revenue. From a service provider perspective, it's not actually sitting in the GPUs. It's sitting in the surrounding infrastructure, the networking, the security, the CPUs required to run the model, the CPU required to run the application that uses the model. So my point is that without these guys, you won't get any of the CPUs, and you won't get any of the CPUs powering the model that the GPUs are using. So really, with no AI GPUs, there's no AI workloads, and without AI workloads, you won't get any of the AI-related infrastructure as a service. So I just want to emphasize that continuing as is not really an option. If you're thinking, I'll just leave the AI to the other guys, continue doing what I've been doing for the last 20 years, and thinking everything will be cool, that's not really the case. You'll miss out on all the AI revenue, but you will also miss out of tons of the business that you're doing today. As I said before, 77% of all SaaS applications that you guys are hosting, you're all hosting tons of those, are using AI to some extent. A lot of those guys want to host their own models. They want those models just next to the SaaS application. So if you guys don't enable them to do that, they will go somewhere else, go to the guys that do enable them to host the models right next to their SaaS applications. Because obviously they don't want the latency, they don't want to pull a SaaS model from an AI model from over here to power their SaaS models over here. I hope that makes sense. So are you starting to feel the FOMO? Okay. So that was the AI opportunity. I hope you get it. I hope you understand that the time is now. I hope I induced a bit of sense of urgency into all of you. Now I'll talk about who the current players are. And by the way, we have 75 slides now, so we're doing well. I'm doing good on time. In fact, I might finish before time. Still battery left. So the current players, like 2 groups of them. You have the neoclouds on the left. I only listed 2 here, but there's a whole bunch of them. Outside of these guys, you can talk about Nibius, you can talk about, in Europe, we have Northern Compute, a great company. And then obviously you have the hyperscalers on the right. On your left, I will actually talk about, you're right. So I will talk about the CoreWeave mostly today because it's a super interesting company. They're basically the new 700-pound gorilla, and I'm saying new because even Amazon can't follow the growth rates. It's pretty crazy. They are IPOing now, so their KPIs are suddenly public, and there's tons of good information in there. This is the APIs. Sorry, this is the S1 from their listing. It's 250 pages. I read it, so you guys don't have to. And the numbers are insane. So revenue is up 100x from 2022, started at 16 million, up to almost $2 billion. And on that $2 billion, they have 15 billion sitting in future contracts already committed. So they already have 15 billion extra sitting in the bank. And these guys started a few years ago. 76% gross margins. Actually, I have reason to believe that number is not sustainable. I don't think they can keep that number up. 32 data centers, tons of power, and all kinds of cool things. But this is what you got to take away. They've grown 100x in 2 years. They went from 16 million to almost 2 billion. And it makes you wonder whether AI just killed cloud or whether actually AI is cloud. Internally at HostedAI, we sometimes talk about, is the GPU the new CPU? Or is maybe the CPU is just like the motherboard was yesterday? So just like a supporting function of whatever workloads you actually have. Interesting talk. I hope that, no, I'm not even going to say the word now. Oh, shit. Right. Anyway, so what else can you say about the neo clouds? They tend to be Bitcoin miners, which is super interesting. These guys have an understanding of GPUs that none of us have here. They're really good at running efficient operations. These guys tend to build their own servers. You've probably seen the images of these weird-looking kind of motherboards with a bit of chassis around them, with a whole ton of GPUs in them, racked up with no chassis around them and weird ways of cooling them and so on. So they focus on efficiency rather than uptime. There's a reason that servers have a chassis and have a box around them so they don't get dusty and die out on you. Bitcoin miners don't mind. They're not so focused on uptime. It doesn't matter if a model is down a little bit. They thrive on 2 to 5 year contracts, and they have super simple offerings. So actually, a lot of these guys just sell pass-through GPU cards. And you can maybe get some resources with them, but there's no sort of redundancy. There's no kind of advanced databases as a service or all the other stuff that we've all been focusing on for the last 10 years. And that's actually the good news. Because I'll now talk about why and how we can still win this. Okay, so the industry is maturing. I talk about how we've gone to building AI models to actually providing services based on those models. It's like, whoa, hey, 100 slides, guys. So we're only 34 slides away from the official CloudFest record that I did in 2015, 10 years ago. But anyway, hold on for a second. Did you guys say providing services? Yeah, I did. And as in service providers, it's your time to shine now. And I'll dig into why now. And because first and foremost, we have to look at the life cycle of AI models. They go from training to fine-tuning to inference. And right now, what we've been doing for the last 2-3 years, since 2022, when CoreWeave was at 16 million, is we've been building the foundational models. I like to say that basically we're rebuilding the internet. You can call these, I don't know if you can, but I like to call them kind of a new DNS. It's like the stuff that ties these foundational models, what ties the new internet together. And we've been spending billions and billions of dollars. You know, CoreWeave raised 700 million, Nebius raised 700 million, and CoreWeave and the other guys raised similar amounts. And they've all been spending that money on effectively building the new internet for us. They've trained the foundational models that our customers will be using in the future when they think about the internet. When I talk to my kids, internet for them in the last year have changed from Google to OpenAI effectively. And this is the shift that we're all seeing. And the reason we can do that is because of the training of all the models that they have done in the last sort of few years. So building AI is an offline process, is less sensitive to downtime. It doesn't matter about latency. So if you're building a model, of course, it's better if the building process, the training process goes on 24/7. But listen, if it's down for a little bit, it doesn't matter because there's no end-user life impact. It's not like there is a website going down or some service that is not being able to meet its SLAs or some certifications that you're missing or something like that. It just takes a bit longer time. Training is effectively all about just max compute for the dollar, which is why the Bitcoin miners are doing such a great job at it, because this is what they've been doing for the last 10 years. And the next step after training and fine-tuning is moving to inference. And this is where it becomes really interesting, because now we've been building the AI, and now we have to sell the AI. So yesterday, in the last 2 years, we've been building the new internet, and now we all have to make money from using the internet. If you ask me, I'd rather be the guys making money from the use of the internet than building of the internet. Because obviously, this is sort of over time something that all of us will be doing rather than just a few players that are making models. So that's known as inference. As I said, these are online front-facing activities providing services in real time. It's like chatbots, it's agents. When you go to Expedia and you buy a trip to Paris, there's an agent dealing with that order rather than a person now. They actually use Llama. And inference is all about uptime, latency, support, security, and obviously about value as well. Data locality is a big deal. And guys, this is what all of you guys have been doing for the last 10 years. Whereas this is, and it's going to be 80% of the revenue. So in the number I said before, the 2030 number, where 46% of all the revenues sitting in our industry will come from AI services, 80% of those 46% will come from inference hosting. And this is what we do best. Whereas the typical neocloud, historically low uptime. I won't name and shame here, but one of the players I had before has a historic uptime of 94.6% the last 6 months. They have public uptime statuses, so you can see that number yourself. You can go Google the uptime of any of those three, you'll find out who I'm talking about. I did the math last night. 94.6% is 21 days of downtime per year. Imagine if any of you guys were running a business with 21 days of downtime. I don't think you'll be in business for very long. They have highly customized hardware, which may be great for training, but maybe not fantastic for running services like your customers would expect you to. They don't care about latency and data locality. It's not a big deal for them. Some of them have started to focus on sovereignty of data. You have, for example, we talked with the guys from Northern Data the other day, and they're doing a great job at actually focusing on locality. They're based here in Germany as well. And their products are super simple. They're not focused on services. They're not focused on uptime. They're not focused on making life easier for the developers. They're focusing on making life easier for the for the foundational model builders. And the funny thing is, like, when you look at what these guys are selling, this is Lambda Labs. It's like we are back in 2004. I remember I had a company called UK2 Group back then. We were selling dedicated servers. I had a brand called 100tv.com. We were selling thousands and thousands of dedicated servers. And what we were talking about was what generation of CPU you had. No one is asking those questions anymore. Imagine if you go to Amazon and you buy an instance from them and they're asking, so do you want an AMD or what generation of Intel do you want and so on. No one cares about it. We're past that point. However, when the GPU as a service started and when the AI infrastructure started, we're back now. Everyone suddenly have to understand what an A100 is, an H100, a H200. Why do we care? Why do we think our clients care? It's just silly. So for some reason, it's the NVIDIA Stardust have sort of been spread over all of us, and we kind of come to the point where we think that this is what customers want. Obviously, it's not what they want. They want to solve their compute problems. They want to crunch their models and run their inference services. Another really funny thing here is that neoclouds do not overcommit. So, in fact, they're not very cloudy. There's no bursting, there's no scaling. It's like a cloud without any of the cloudy features. There's no redundancy. It's not like if any one GPU goes down, it will spin up somewhere else. If one server goes down, and the storage tends to be local. And the interesting part here is that if you go to Lambda Labs, and this is not only Lambda Labs is actually a great company, but there is a whole bunch of them selling effectively the same products. Typically, it's 1 or 8 GPUs you buy. And each of those GPUs will be passed through to the customer. And let's say that the customer one day needs half a GPU, the other day he needs 1.5, and then he needs 20 GPUs, and then, because inference, that's how it works. You have fluctuating number of concurrent users on your models. You have more people asking about trips to Paris on a Monday than you do on a Sunday. That's just the way it is. But the way that all these guys are doing business is they force you to actually buy the infrastructure you need up front. So imagine an infrastructure business without overcommitment. We overcommit everything. God knows when I had 100tv.com, I sold 100 terabytes of traffic with every server. You can imagine how that would work from an overcommitment perspective. If just half of them use that, I would be screwed as a business, right? That's how our business works. Everyone in this room is overcommitting something: power, bandwidth, memory, CPU, everything. That's how the cloud works. Because if you look at a single customer, it's not actually profitable. It's only profitable because we have 1,000 customers that hopefully are not using all the resources they've bought from us. So the utilization rate is a really important key here, and the utilization rate of a GPU tends to be around 20 to 30%, and of servers, and it's called the MFU. And this is basically what the math would look like if you had a 40%. So this is the theoretical number of teraflops in a GPU over the actual usage of teraflops on a GPU. And it tends to be around 40%. And by the way, you should all congratulate yourself. You now witness to 134 slides, which is the time I got to. I still have 5 minutes left. So anyway, for GPUs, it's called MFU. So this is the utilization rate of the, if you go back to pre-VMware, to pre-Zen, pre-KVM, pre-Kubernetes, pre-Docker, pre-any virtualization of a dedicated server, this was the same number. We were using between 20 and 40% of a dedicated server before we start virtualizing it. And this is exactly what we are doing for the GPU now. So not only in the way we are going to market, but also in the way we are using the hardware, we are back to before 2004, which is really weird. So I'd like to say that the MFU is a little bit like a PUE from a data center. It's completely not related, but it's a number you can look at the same way. So the industry averages is 70% in training, 30% in fine-tuning, and 10 to 15% in inference. And what I'm saying here, and what HostedAI is saying, is, hey, why don't we put another 6 to 8 customers? Why don't we actually utilize the GPU in a better way? Because if you look at the problem that VMware solved back in 2003, 2004, that was a $1,000 problem. A really big CPU is like $1,000. A really big GPU is like 50,000. So effectively here, if you take the S1 from CoreWeave, they claim their MFU, so this is a public number. In the S1 from CoreWeave, they say their MFU is between 35 and 45%, effectively 40%. And they invested $8.6 billion in GPUs over the last, in 2024, which means effectively $5.2 billion of that is just sitting idle, not being used. And in that way, again, we are back to 2004, before virtualization and before all those things. Now I'll be talking about the gist of it, why and how we can still win this. So just summing up here, neoclouds are trainers, they're not hosters. They are weak where you guys are strong. And your strengths, the uptime, the support, the throughput, the understanding of the actual workloads rather than just GPUs, that's the strength. And they ask for long-time contracts, so they're not really cloudy, even though they call themselves neoclouds. They're not cloudy at all, actually. They expect customers to take 3 to 5 year contracts, where you have a system, you have a sort of modus operandi where you don't need to do that. And the unit economics, I feel, is not maintainable. When we started this business, HostedAI, a year ago, an A100 was $6 an hour. Now an A1 is below $1 an hour, and that's in 1 year. So if you bought those GPUs expecting to have $6 an hour in return, and you're now seeing 1/6 of it, then I don't feel the numbers are maintainable long term, unless, of course, you have 3 to 5 year contracts locking the end users into these prices. So that is why I think we have a really go at this, because we understand the industry better. Now I'll talk about, and these are the 5 slides on HostedAI. I think I've done pretty well, 150 slides. I haven't even mentioned my own company yet. So here we go. This is what we do at HostedAI. Effectively, we are a software platform that transforms servers and GPUs into profitable neoclouds. We get you online right away. In fact, when I said that only 5% of you guys have an AI offering, that's why that 95% of you don't have any AI revenue. So that's the first thing we need to do. We need to get you guys online. And then we enable GPU overselling. So we enable you to sell GPUs just like you sell CPUs. And it's a complete stack. Give us bare metal, and we will give you a neocloud in a day. We integrate with whatever billing systems you have. You're typically just an API key away from actually getting you guys live. It's not just a GPU hosting platform. It's a profit optimization engine. 5 times the profitability, set up in a day. I like to say we are VMware for Gen AI, but I think we're much cooler than VMware ever was. Final thoughts. I have 1 minute and 22 seconds left. I really want to emphasize this. If you take one thing away, it is that we have another shot. Those of us that missed out on the cloud market back in 2015 when I was on this stage, talking about Amazon, we have another shot now. But it's like that with AI, all the opportunities are reopening. These are my kids, actually. I can't explain his glasses. I'm so sorry. But this is May, and this is Storm. And we have these business talks. I've been building businesses my whole life. HostedAI is actually my 7th startup. And one of the things they always ask about is hey, how can we build cool stuff when all the other guys have already built everything there is to build? And I actually feel like we are back to ground zero now. I think that because of AI, everything is restarting. a lot of the stuff that was invented yesterday is irrelevant today. It's like all the opportunities are reopening. We, my kids, everyone in this room, we are exactly at the right time, at the right place. It's like being offered $1 BTCs. It's like being able to buy sex.com for $11. I actually had to Photoshop this. It was interesting. Anyway, we have to take action now. I don't want this to be a missed opportunity. So my message here is, let's fight back. Let's not make the same mistake we did 10 years ago. And let me help. I'm at booth Z19, and I don't want to be here another 10 years from now talking about how we missed another opportunity again. So thank you. But before you all sort of, I do have a Q&A, though Søren told me, he was pretty clear, no Q&A. So I tend to bring my own questions for these things. So if I was in your chair, what would I think about? And obviously, question number 5 is the main thing on your mind, I'm sure. But one thing I would think about, hey, do we have time for this? We have like 40 seconds. Is there any one of these 5 that you want to focus on? Or 5, all right. Actually, all right, I have to drill through this then. This was literally on his birthday list that year. It's a few years old, that photo. But he felt that this was the look to have in 1980. A lot of you guys were around in the 80s, and this is what you kind of look like, and that was what he wanted. I can't really, I don't have any excuses, but now he's kind of into an old Gallagher thing. I think that's even worse than this. I don't know. So this actually ended up being at 6.3 slides per minute. And listen, if you have any more questions, I think it's better you come by our booth, which is at Z19. And thank you all for listening and for being part of breaking a new record of 100 and close to 90 slides. 100 and close to 90 slides in what was almost half an hour. Thank you, guys.